What's going on, guys? It's the Unhinged Engineer here, back today with another video about career progression. Now, as you've probably seen me mention on this channel several times, career progression is very, very nonlinear. There's lots of different ways our careers could go on any given day, in any given week or month or years, right? Progression in our careers is not linear like it was when we were in school. And you may have noticed this watching other people that you knew, maybe you went to school with or you stayed in touch with throughout your career, progress at different rates from you. Sometimes it may seem deserved. Somebody works really hard and they progress quickly, or somebody is kind of a slacker and they don't. Or you might even see the opposite, right? Somebody that you know is working really hard but not achieving the goals that they want to, or somebody who's not working that hard at all and is really crushing their career at a breakneck pace. Now, whichever of these positions you are in, it's important to recognize that people who really progress in their career in the way they want, at the pace they want, understand three very common pitfalls that people who don't fall into. And today I'm going to talk about three reasons you're falling behind in your career and how to solve them. Like I said, I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional development content for other young engineers like myself. And if that's something you're interested in, this is definitely the channel for you. But without further ado, let's talk about three reasons you're falling behind and how we can fix it. So the first reason I want to talk about here is complacency. Now, I actually looked up the dictionary definition of complacency. And complacency is a calm sense of well-being and security, which for the record, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with job security or enjoying your job, but it gets worse. The quality or state of being satisfied, especially satisfaction or self-satisfaction, accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. So in other words, there's nothing wrong with being satisfied with your job, right? It's just that there are certain ways of being satisfied with your job or certain things that may make you satisfied with your job that are actually traps in disguise that you're not aware of. And just to list out a few of them, the first one is having a routine job, right? Even if you like the stuff you're doing or you find it interesting, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, that is a trap, because after a while, you're going to have N years of experience and people are going to be holding you to a standard of someone who's had a diverse set of experiences and done a lot of stuff, but you've only done one thing just a bunch of times over and over again. So that's not a good position to be in. Another one might be tuning out development in your industry, right? So maybe you're doing good work, you're building products that you're really interested in, but you're using tools from 1 year ago, and then 2 years ago, and then 3 or 5 or 10 years ago, right? Every tool is new at one point and then becomes deprecated and old and the thing that people aren't recruiting for anymore. So again, even if you have development experience in the certain type of technologies that people are looking for, if you don't actually have any experience with the technologies they're using at the present moment, that's not going to be a good position. And if anything, it's kind of worse than having someone who's new, maybe they're fresh out of school or they're fresh into this industry and doesn't know anything. Because at that point, now you're more senior, now you cost more, now there's more expectations. So it really can be a sandpit to use the same tool over and over again as more advanced tools are coming out and replacing it. The last one I want to talk about is just missing opportunities in general, right? Now, I do believe in loyalty to the people we work with and loyalty to the companies we work for, within reason, of course, but there's nothing wrong with having your eyes and ears open for opportunities. And if you're too complacent, if you're too happy with your job, that you just don't even evaluate other opportunities that might either A, be out there, or B, literally come your way. If you don't do that, then there are going to be good opportunities you miss out on. And over time, that's going to increase the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So all of these three manifestations of complacency are really damning for our careers over the long run. Again, there's nothing wrong with being satisfied with our jobs. In fact, I'd argue satisfaction is something we should strive for, right? Satisfaction with our jobs and security that we're going to have a job tomorrow. Those are both great things. But if you take it too far or you let it manifest itself in certain bad ways, like the ones we just discussed, then it could actually hold you back in your career pretty significantly. I've seen this a lot. I'd probably say it's the most common one on this list. But that said, let's move on to number 2. Okay, number 2 is a lack of direction. Now, we all know super hardworking, super smart engineers who do really great work that don't get where they're trying to go. And a lot of the times, the reason for that is they don't know where they're trying to go, right? As the old adage goes, to a man who knows not where he sails, no wind is favorable. If we don't know where we're trying to go, then nothing we really do is going to get us there. This is a crucial concept that people just don't recognize, because a lot of times in life, where we're supposed to go is just passively handed to us, right? It's passively handed to us by our parents and then by professors and then peers and then media about what's the hot new sexy company right now, right? It's really tough for us to actually chart our own course and make a sequence of decisions that are going to get us there. That's a challenge. And when people are drowning in work from their day job, it's hard to come up for air and actually think about that. But it's really crucial because, again, people who know where they're going are going to get there way faster than people who take forever to figure it out. There's nothing wrong with exploration. I'm a young person. I'm still doing a lot of exploration in my career. But again, you want to have a general concept of where you're trying to go and what you want your life to be like. Here's 3 ways you can do that. The first way is being very intentional and specific about the job you want. What title do you want? What kind of company do you want to work at? What level of seniority are you looking for? Are you looking to be a leader? And if so, what type? Do you want to be a tech lead for a small team, manager of a big team, some C-level executive in a startup or whatever? What kind of position do you want to have? In addition to that, what do you want your actual work day to look like? Sometimes writing out titles and industries and salaries and stuff is the easy part. The hard part is thinking about what our day-to-day life will actually be like. And I got news for you. A lot of times that's the most important, right? Because that's what we actually feel. We only feel our paycheck every couple of weeks, and we only feel the actual career progression every so often, whether it's promotions or switching from job to job. The day-to-day is critical, and it's the most often neglected piece of designing the job we want. So don't just be intentional about the job you want. Be super, super specific. The second one is, once you have a better understanding of where you're trying to go, start to reverse engineer it, right? Look at roles that are out there that fit this job you want, because unless you're trying to be self-employed, you got to find some closest possible thing out there that is as close to your job as you want. Reverse engineer that role. Look at the role that's as close as possible, or at least as close as possible that you think you could attain in some reasonable amount of time, and look at the kind of company it's at. Look at where they hire from. Look at the kinds of tools they use and the kinds of qualities that they're looking for, and look at types of projects that might be relevant to them and of interest to a potential recruiter. Even if you are so ballsy, reach out to a recruiter or reach out to somebody who works there and try to get more information that way. Start to actually reverse engineer this role. Don't just take what's out there for granted. Actually pick it apart for information that you can use to get there as soon as possible. One last note I'll make here is that we have to be honest with ourselves about how much of these things we're looking to attain on our way to this ideal job we can actually get at the current job we have. The answer to that is usually never zero. It's also usually never all of it. There's some percentage of things that you want to do and that will get you where you're trying to go that you can do at your job. And there's other things that you may need to do in your free time, or get a degree to do, or just leave and get a new job that will allow you to do those things. But be honest with yourself about what you can accomplish where you're currently at. And where you're currently at leads me to my last point. Communicate with your manager, right? Be honest and open with them about what you're trying to do and why. Maybe don't say you're trying to leave for the door the second you get the opportunity, but still, if you want to be a full stack developer and right now you're just front end, go tell your manager that you really want to learn back end stuff. If you only write Python and C# or whatever, like super high level languages, and you want to do some embedded stuff or some C or C++, tell your manager that, right? And hopefully, if they're a good manager, they're going to help you do that, or at least do something as close to that as possible, right? Because again, your career progression should be a project you work on with your manager. Even though it's ultimately up to you, like it's your life, it's your career, and you got to take ownership of it. If you have a great manager, they will want to collaborate with you on your journey towards where you're trying to go. Because at the end of the day, they don't want you to wake up one morning and decide, you know what, I can't do the things I want to do working for this person. I'm going to bounce, right? They don't want that to happen. And so if they're a good manager, they will collaborate with you for that reason, if no other one, right? They might just also like you and want to help you anyway. Those are the 3 ways I think we can really combat against having no direction in our career. We can be super intentional, specific about the goals we want to hit. We can reverse engineer the series of steps and actions that are going to get us to that goal. And we can communicate with our manager early and often to start working towards it as soon as possible. So these 2, lack of direction and complacency, are pretty much about us. The last one I want to talk about here is more about other people, or at least how we interact with other people. And that's neglecting the soft skills, right? Now, I know every super technical engineer out there is rolling their eyes at me right now, but the reality is people do actually care. Engineering is a team sport. And so if you can't communicate not just what you want with your manager, but also communicate the results of your work, communicate why you deserve a certain type of promotion or other progression or title change or opportunity to work on a certain project or work with a certain tool. If you can't articulate all these things and you can't express it to people in a convincing way that gets you the outcome you want, the reality is you're just not going to get there, right? Engineers just want to focus on the work. I recognize that. But at the end of the day, engineering really is a team sport, and you have to be able to communicate with other people in order to get not just what the company wants, right? Which when we hear about soft skills, it's usually in that context. How do we communicate? How do we align with one another and drive impact and scale or whatever the hell else they say? Forget all that stuff. Just selfishly for yourself. If you want to hit the goals that you're trying to hit, it's going to require some form of social capital and soft skills. Main reasons I think neglecting them is a serious problem. For one, not only is engineering a team sport, usually big career altering stuff takes multiple people. Unless you're just absolutely cracked and you're going to build an entire framework or product or whatever else all on your own, you're probably going to have to work with others. And so if you want some kind of leadership position, let alone just an integral one, like if you want to be important to this project, if you want to be an active part of this project, if you want to lead that project, you really have to be able to communicate with others, because chances are if you're going to do things as big as you want, something big enough to drive you towards where you're trying to go, you're going to have to work with other people. You can't just do it alone. Second reason, like it or not, the perception of our work is just as important as the actual work itself. I know engineers hate it when people say stuff like that, but again, it's true. If a PR falls in the woods and no one's there to approve it, it never happened. That's just the reality. Last one I'll mention here, this is actually just a general piece of advice. Mentorship is a huge unlock. Not just being social and communicative with your peers, but finding people in your organization who are more senior than you, who have gotten where you're trying to go or gotten where they tried to go, and can hopefully teach you how to do that for yourself. Either way, mentorship is a huge deal, and it's a huge way to unlock so much time and energy, because there are just so many landmines that older, wiser people have stepped on and can tell you to walk around instead of just sitting there and watching you get your leg blown off. So I would highly advise pursuing mentorship as you go and develop your soft skills. So overall, these are the reasons I really think certain people fall behind in their careers and certain people crush it and race ahead. Obviously, technical quality of work is very, very important. Book knowledge and understanding the different technologies and being proficient with the different tools. Obviously, this is all important. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But these are some of the things I think people don't think about. They just think about the work they're doing and never the work they need to do for themselves to actually get where they're trying to go. So my piece of advice would be, don't swim underwater forever. Every so often, when you get the chance, come up for air and really think about where you're trying to go. Because again, like I said, to a man who knows not where they sail, no wind is favorable. So figure out where you're trying to sail, figure out what you can do to get there, and start kicking ass. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional development content for other young engineers like me. I'm an aerospace engineer by trade, but I think if you're doing just about anything in deep tech, in defense, in engineering in general, right? I don't need to list them all off. This is a channel that's definitely helpful for you. So if you're looking for advice to somebody who didn't go through career progression 20 years ago, but is going through it right now, then I would highly advise you like, comment, subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you next time.